Good evening, everyone. Happy Monday. It's your boy Kevin Thornton. You are tuned in to the Wellness Architect Show featuring my lovely co-host Lotus Riche. Happy Monday. It's January 20th, 2020. Happy Martin Luther King Day for those of you all out there doing some kind of service work to celebrate his special holiday. Happy Monday to you. It's going to be a great show. I love my brothers. I like to support my brothers, but I love the company of some magnificent black women, and today is no other day. I have Black Girl Magic in the on the screen and in my presence. So without further ado, I want to throw it to my co-host, Miss Lois Riche. How are you doing, ma'am?
Hey, we're doing great tonight. Is that who I think it is? Is that the diva majestic Wanda Hollis?
It
Hey
is.
Wanda,
Hey,
how
Lotus.
you doing?
Doing super fantastic.
Awesome, awesome. Well, tonight, folks, we're so happy to have you back with us. Thank you for joining us. And our word of the day is struggle. You ever heard anyone say the struggle is real? Yes, the struggle is real. But some people struggle in different ways. And some people will say they are struggling, but they really don't know the meaning of the word struggle because one person's struggle may be different from another person's struggle. And that's
True
okay.
that.
But
True
we're
that.
going to Webster to find out what that word really means. Okay, so it says struggle. Struggle, as we know, it's a verb, of course, and it means to make a forceful or violent effort to get free from or free of restraint or constriction. And I chose that word because we have just stepped into 2020. And many of us are still struggling today with some of the same things we struggled with in 2019. And so while we're
Mm.
looking at that word struggle, I'd like you to ask yourself, what is it that you're still struggling with? That's still constraining you, that's still constricting you. And really be truthful with yourself. And when you find out what that is, have the internal, intestinal fortitude to release yourself from the struggle. And a lot of us are in struggles, in our internal thoughts about ourselves, about what we think about ourselves, and about how we feel about ourselves. And the struggle is real because a lot of that stuff stems from when we were real little small kids, still so impressionable, and someone impressed upon us that we were unattractive or that we were not going to grow up to be the best possible us that we can be, or they told us that we could never be the president or we could never be whatever it was we wanted to be. And so as we grew up, we were just tied to that struggle. Or we may be in a relationship that we're struggling in because we're not happy. Or maybe one person is happy and the other person is not happy. Or maybe both of you are tremendously happy, but because of some of the things that you've been through in previous relationships or how you were raised and what you were exposed to, it's really a struggle for you to just do wusa and enjoy the relationship. So that's my word for you today. The struggle. What is your struggle? And are you working to relieve yourself of the constraint of the struggle?
Thank you, ma'am.
All
Wow.
right.
Before I introduce our special guest, I mean special, we want this to be very interactive. So please, chime in on our Facebook page. We're going live. Please put your comments there. Lois will be watching and maintaining
Yes.
that. And so she will make sure she'll ask your questions. Feel free to also call in at 470-251-4647. Once again, it's 470-251-4647 with your questions, comments, and concerns. Our special guest. You gotta have her on here at least once or twice a year. She came and she blessed us for a
Amen.
hot second towards the end of 2020, but we had to have her for a full couple hours today. My friend, the motivational queen herself, Miss Wanda D. Hollis. How you doing, ma'am?
Oh, I am wonderful. I'm trying to figure out what my struggle is. Lotus put that thing down, and I have a few comments because first of all, you should be doing videos of those tranquil, you know. I was like, woo. Like, oh my goodness. Okay, okay.
Thank you. I
So
actually do
yes.
videos, but
Well,
they're more high power videos for my
it's
clients.
like woo. I felt like I started seeing psychedelic lights, and you was taking me to the other realm. But I want to just
Thank you.
thank y'all for allowing me to grace you with my presence.
No,
And
the pleasure is all ours.
well,
Yes,
thank
it
you
is.
because it's always good to be on the Wellness Architect
Thank
Show.
you.
It's always, anytime I can come on, I just, want to always support. So just thank you for that. It is 2020, and I tell you, the mission is still real, still trying to empower people into believing that they are enough, hence my
Yes.
book right here, and Wake Up Winning, which is self-titled of my other book. So I am an author. I'm also in the realm of coaching, and where I believe that everybody's dream deserves attention, and
Yes.
the intention of just manifesting. I like to help authors, entrepreneurs, coaches, artists get maximum exposure through media. So like you, I operate the platform of the I Am Enough talk show where I teach people how to leverage their media content to help build their brand. I love what I do, and I can't I would say it's very fulfilling. I'm also in the space of helping people create books and turning those books into movies and screenplays, whatever you desire. So I say all
Yes.
things media.
Okay.
My philosophy is if you are in business or you offer a service of any type, that service deserves to be exposed to the fullest. So right now we're in a very cute position of having access to multiple platforms, and we should take advantage of it.
Yes.
Along with that, just being a mom, a granny, a friend to many, and just loving what I do. So
Well,
there you go. Short version.
we are honored to have you here.
Yes, we are.
And so today we're going to talk about relationships. We have three coaches, and we're going to talk about relationships
Yes.
because I think this is something that we people always struggle with, and a lot of times they want the easy way out. They want you to tell them what they really want to hear, and not what they
Yes.
really need to do to become to attract that man or woman that they need that they want in their life.
Yeah.
And so this is gonna be our job for us today to help give them the tools and also deal with some questions that they may be having about relationships. But one of the things I wanted
Yes.
to start off with is I'll talk to y'all before the show started that Lonnie Love who's on the Real. She had made a statement that has went viral that caused an uproar with the men that African American men cannot be faithful. That we were not taught or raised to be faithful, and it stems from slavery, which has caused a uproar and from black men because there's black men who feel like that stigma affects all men, and they are some men that do cheat, but then there's men that does not. But when you have a platform like she has, that tends to people tend to believe what she say, and then if they feel it's hard for them as men to beat that stereotype. So I want the ladies to give your opinions on what she said and what's your thoughts on that. And I'll let our lovely guest go first.
Well, I didn't see the interview, but I never want to group the whole umbrella of all men cheat, and nor can we blame everything on slavery. There's a lot of things that we have to blame on slavery, but as far as getting to the root of it, I think that that's the most important service that we can do ourselves. And if there's a problem with infidelity, it's like, why is there a problem? And I think for a lot of reasons, a man, there's two sets of rules. There's a set of rules for the woman, and there's the set of rules for the man. For man. So the set of rule for the man comes into play where there's this rite of passage. So it's like you're supposed to go. It's almost like starting the sexuality journey of just go and have sex to kind of like have that experience. So it doesn't even tie into the intimacy of the course that you take through sex. Well, then you have to put in, there's a lot of factors involved. I mean, the free flow of sexual activity could stem from a childhood trauma of being raped that was never dealt with.
Right.
And a lot of times that's why sometimes we gravitate to the excessiveness of things because of the lack of something else.
Right.
I think too that it could be a lack of self-love, because when you don't really know how to love yourself, then you're searching for that, or it's like, okay, well, if I get her, then that kind of gives me brownie points, and if I get that one, and if I have this one over here, and if I have one through every state, then I feel like more of a man. But I would say that that's a layered question. Because
Yes,
they
it
could
is.
be, right, Lotus?
It really is.
It's so many different angles to look at it,
It is. It is.
And the fact
Yeah.
that I would not take Lonnie Love's opinion on what on black men, and how their makeup is. I would say that for every black man that I've dealt with, I've made them responsible for their own activities.
Yep.
So I'm not
Right.
going to say to you, well, Kevin, we're dating, so I'm going to give you a pass to act a certain way
Right.
because this is what society says that you're supposed to act. No,
Right.
no,
You know what?
not at all.
I agree. Before I say something, Lotus, what you gotta say?
Well, first and foremost, I have to say we have to look at the information that we are being given to really ascertain if that's founded on statistical data. There is a company called the Statistic Brain Institute, and one of the things that they do talk about is fidelity. And this is what kind of blew me when I was looking for the statistical data on this. They had it grouped like this. And this is to Wanda's point, and I think this is very important. We have to watch how we group people. And what the Statistic Brain Research Institute gathered as far as fidelity and as far as stress statistics and stuff like that, they broke it down in United States, United Kingdom, Europe, Asia, Africa, Australia, Pacific Island. And if you go in depth, it's probably even deeper than that. But the thing is, again, we are putting people in a box, and you cannot group all men together because all men are not the same. And all men they all have different values. And so because of their values, what's been instilled in them from birth, that's how they're going to relate. Now, before I would take the word of any person, I'm going to look at the statistical data that's presented to me, and I'm checking for reliability, and I'm checking for validity. But again, even against that statistical data, I have to ask, who's taking the numbers?
Right.
And is it tainted to place men of color in a situation where they're not looked on as favorable as other cultures? So there's a whole mix of contributories that you have to bring to the table when you really start saying that. Now, she may have been able to say from the male population that she dealt with,
right,
out of 100 men, 75% or 85% were unfaithful. So statistically, for her
For
personal
her,
data, that
right.
may be very correct. Whereas for Wanda, that may not be true. For me or any other woman, that may not be true. I know my mom and I were sitting here today and we were talking about a couple. They've been married 60 some odd years. And now, did they ever cheat? I don't know. But everybody's not cheating.
Yeah,
Right.
everybody's not cheating.
And we
Right.
have to be careful of how we categorize people.
Something that you said was very true, especially when it comes down to the men. And I think a lot of times it's not really spoke upon is that it's so many different layers to why the men may do what they do. Um, and molestation and rape of men is high. We just it's just not
You
spoke
just don't
upon.
talk about it.
We
Of
just
course
don't
not.
talk about it. And so a lot of times, whether it's a male, even females who have been raped, they tend to be a little bit more promiscuous
Promiscuous.
based on that experience.
Exactly.
Because they've trying to fulfill a void that they had based on that experience. So we a lot of times we pass judgment on these people without really knowing the experience of their journey and why they cause them to do what they do.
Right.
So then, therefore, you have a
Yes.
black man who has been molested or raped, and he's promiscuous because of that. Then add on the burden of maybe being abandoned by his
Yes.
father.
Right.
So then he has the hole in his heart that says, "No, he's not lovable." So then he seeks the love of women to define his self worth because he don't have it within himself. So
Right.
it's a lot of different things that we need to talk about or explore. That would be the reason why men do what they do, and not just group it and saying that we all just can't do it. Yes, ma'am.
And being
So,
too.
go ahead.
No,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
So you touched on a very important point, Kevin, because as a person who has suffered sexual abuse, I can speak wholeheartedly when I say sometimes sexual abuse does not purport promiscuity, but in many instances it is a known fact, and the health place for your mental health has conveyed in one of their documents that sexual abuse survivors often equate promiscuity to self-worth, because of the trauma and being silent about the sexual abuse. It alters them, and the abuse that they suffer oftentimes makes them want to have someone who is loving them, who is caring for them. And so then you've heard that saying, looking for love in all the
In
wrong
all the wrong
places,
places. Right.
because they're trying to feel a sense of self worth.
Exactly.
And even people with other symptoms of PTSD may also have a level of promiscuity. Hence, a lot of people of color have suffered various types of abuse, both male and female. So that I thought that was a great point
Yeah.
that you made, Kev.
And not just you know men of color or women of color,
All
as
people.
all of us, I don't care what race, we all have secrets that we haven't dealt with,
Right.
and that comes from generational confusion. And when you think about, like, now the new thing is, whereas 20 years ago you didn't hear about cyberbullying,
Right.
so certain things now change with the culture that we
Right.
under.
Yeah.
It changes with whereas before, I know my grandparents growing up, like blues music was popular. Now we have hip hop.
Right.
So certain things to alter and change how we behave, because
Yes.
music and media runs our culture.
Yep.
So it's like certain things that you see now, you wouldn't have seen them before. It's for just certain things that we do. So you gotta really feel like, I think it's always going to be a choice of what do you want in your relationship.
Right.
I've been in relationships, and I've said, do you want this thing open or not? Cause that's just the way I talk. You know,
Right.
I'm like,
Right.
cause what I don't want is I don't want any surprises.
Right.
Right.
So we're going to define the kind of relationship we have. We are the two people involved. So if you're man enough to do whatever you want to do, then just know that there's somebody on the other side that's going to be woman enough to do what she wants to do. And that's I think the link that most people can't handle. They want to do the things in secrecy that they don't have to have in secrecy.
Right.
Right. Exactly.
Because I think a lot of times, whether it's male or female, they do it in secrecy because they feel like if they were to come to the person directly up front and tell them what they really want, that person may not want it. So then, therefore, they, like you said, they do it in secret. But you never know until you actually have that conversation.
Yeah, be honest.
Be honest.
Be honest. And you know, Tina Bridges has this beautiful play out right now. Shout out to Tina B right over here in Status Network, and it's called The Shell of a Man. And that
Yes.
play touched on so many topics. You know, like the man that's the dreamer, and then him not taking care of the family because he's so focused on the dream, and the man that was abused as a child, so he's drinking. You know, that alcoholicness. You know, that alcoholism came from him drinking, and then the man that's abused, he saw the household. His father was the abuser, and so he became, you know, the abuser, and or the one that was like low self-esteem, so he was
Yes.
very mean towards his spouse, you know, because he was not feeling love within himself. And I think to that extent, we all have these broken pieces and we don't want to deal with them. We want to keep them covered under the rug, and we don't want to go get the help that we need. I'm not
Yes.
the person to sit down and talk to about that. You have to go and find the right therapy for the right problem. You
Yes.
know, so I think that that's where we really need to start, because
Yeah, it's funny you said that because um, you have all these people, men and women, who are completely broken. You know,
Yes.
whether everybody have a different, it's like you said, different experience that has caused their brokenness, and we don't want to deal with the issue. And they feel like if I get this dude, if I get this young lady, that's going to heal the
Right.
scar that
Right.
I have, or it's going to make me feel better about myself.
yeah.
And it's sad because I had asked a young man one time. I noticed that he was like he had found him a new girl he was dating, and he started putting all his energy into her. But in that, he stopped doing the things that he needed to
For
do
himself.
for himself because he lost himself in that person. So I asked him. I
Right.
said, um, "Do you like yourself right now? Do you love yourself right now?" And he said, "No." And I said, he said, "Why'd you ask?" I said, "Because you're putting so much energy into this young lady. It's evident that she makes you feel good about yourself. So that's
Right.
why you always want to be on this person because without her, you don't feel
You
good
don't feel good,
about
right?
yourself." So I said that's unfair pressure you putting on this person that she probably don't even is aware that you're doing to her,
Yes.
and you set her up for failure because she can't make you feel good about yourself all the time. And at some point, you have to be able to do the work to figure out what it is within you that's making you not like yourself enough.
Right.
And I just think that's a common thing that across the board, men and women have to do. And like you said, they do not want to do it.
We don't ever want to ask the hard questions. We don't ask the hard questions about when we look in the mirror. We don't ask the hard
Right.
questions. So
Yeah.
you wouldn't dare have enough courage to ask the questions to another person. It's like people will say, "Well, I didn't want to know, so I didn't ask." You know, that's the craziest shit ever.
Right.
You should ask all the questions. You
Yep.
need to ask. You need to know what a person is thinking. What are they feeling? What do they want in a relationship? What are their expectations are from you? And you need to touch on that past, because it's never about the sex. It's about the other stuff. It's like with
Yep.
the alcoholism. It's never about the alcohol. It's about the other stuff that makes you be excessive in the drinking. It's not
Yes.
about the alcohol.
Right.
No, it's not about the alcohol. Well, I digress. it is about the alcohol, but to a point. And I say that as a person who was a substance use disorder clinician for a number of years. And why I say it's about the alcohol is because the abuse or the lack of self-worth or the issues of a life lead people to alcoholism. And then, a lot of people that become alcoholics, they start off, they don't even like to taste the beer. They don't like to taste the liquor. Hell, it burns going down. But what happens is over time, they need that taste. You know what I'm saying? They need that taste, especially when they need to numb the
I was gonna
pain.
say that the numbingness is
Okay,
what they're looking
it's it's
for.
it's, it's the numbingness,
Mm-hmm.
and then it turns into a taste. You ever saw a person who has substance use disorder and they do that? You ever seen that? I mean, it's real. And it's not that they want to be in that state. It's that because something mentally and emotionally and spiritually and physically has gotten them there, and then their bodies become addicted to it, and they can't let it go. And with that said, um, Wanda, I want to say that you got somebody that commented on what you said. Angela said, Wanda, that's a great question that most people don't know how to ask. What do you want in a relationship?
Mm-hmm.
So great question.
It's it's not something they don't know how to ask, and sometimes I think it's the fear based too of
Of what they might hear.
what they might want to hear.
Exactly.
And,
Exactly.
and fear like you might want one thing and you scared but you really like that person, and you scared that if you what you really want, they might not want it
Right.
to do it.
That they might not want the
They
same
don't
thing
want the
that you
same
want.
thing, so I just accept what they're willing to give me at this present moment instead of just
And that speaks to our esteem. I mean, we need to learn how to first love ourselves before we can start loving other people.
yeah,
Because if you don't love yourself, then you have nothing to give
yeah,
anybody.
absolutely,
So that keeps you in a void, and it might come off to where now you're treading in those waters of self-destruction. Because why else would you sabotage a good relationship? Doing the things that you shouldn't do.
right,
Why else would you do that?
exactly, exactly. And so a man said when we was talking about relationships, he's made the comment that and I want you ladies to chime in on this, that a lot of times when a woman say what they want in a man is really the complete opposite of what they really want. Because they said that and then he may follow up the comment saying that if a lot of these women who come from a single parent household say they want a real man, but how do you know what a real man is if a real man
What do
has
you
not
have to
been present?
compare it to?
Right. So what's you ladies' thoughts on that?
Lotus, you there?
She
Lotus
looks she on
looks
froze.
froze. Well, I guess the first thing is you do have to have some type of scale, or no, it's perception. Everybody has their own idea of what good is. My good for me, excuse me, isn't necessarily your good.
Right.
So it's like you have to have this this meeting of the minds. You you can experience something from a side of pain or from a side of joy, and then it's all a matter of how you're going to process it. Are you going to look at that like if you say, wow, that was some good chicken, and then you be like, oh, I hate the smell of chicken. You see, like, two different people can look at something and just have the ideals that this is the way I'm thinking. I'm thinking that that's a good man, and the other person might say, I'm thinking that he sucks.
Right.
And then it's like, what qualities? So it comes down to what qualities are you really, really looking for?
Absolutely.
I remember a girlfriend told me that she wouldn't date a guy because he he wore white socks, and I was like, you're crazy. Like, what does that have to do with what what type of
Right.
what does that touch on integrity, concern? That doesn't, it's like, really? But that's the whole shallowness of a lot of people. It's like, oh, you look good,
Right.
or oh, I like those black socks, so I'm gonna date you because you wear black socks. It's
Right.
like, what? Like, I want to
Mr.
know.
Otis, Mr. Otis from Martin would never get a date.
Never
Them
get a
white
date.
socks.
And that could
Nope.
be the best man, that the one that
Yep.
looks out for you. So I
Yep.
think a lot of times, it's like, what do you want and what do you need? Like,
Mm-hmm.
do you need somebody that you feel safe with, protect as a woman? And these roles of what you want, what you need, all this kind of stuff, that has to be something that's really personal and inside of you.
Yeah.
It's not what you should let society
Yeah.
dictate. You should say, you know what? Personally, I could go for a man that like to go to the grocery store, because I don't like to go to the grocery store.
Yep.
Where somebody else would be like, well, I love to cook,
Right.
or I love to go to the grocery store. Be like, well, that ain't my thing.
Right.
But society would say, well, every woman's supposed to know and love to go to the grocery store and learn to cook. Like,
Cook.
some people be in the holidays. I ain't really in the holidays.
Right.
But I made adjustments because of people around me.
Yes.
Right.
So what do you think, Lotus? Did you hear the
I
question?
I really believe that people have to be secure with themselves and feel safe with themselves, because a lot of times they're looking for somebody to make them feel secure or make them feel safe, but they don't feel secure with themselves and they don't feel safe with themselves. So you're asking for somebody to bring something to you that you don't already know and have for yourself. So it's really hard for the other person to bring that to you, especially when you don't totally verbalize it, because then you leave them playing the guessing game. So what you conveyed earlier, it's unequivocal that you have to have somebody who's willing to be very transparent with you and tell you exactly, this is what I need for me to feel secure, for me to be happy. Because, and then you don't get it twisted. Now some people will say, this is how you need to make me happy. Pump your brakes now. No, you need to already be happy when you come to the table.
Right.
Because if you are miserable, guess what? I'm about to be miserable.
Right.
And see, we're not supposed to make the person happy. We're supposed to add to their happiness.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right. Touche. Touche.
I completely agree.
I
And
concur.
one of the things that you said that I completely agree with is that it's the coach in you. I believe that you set the tone of how the dynamic of the relationship is going to be. And I'm a big proponent of that as well. And because I might be in one space, one point in time where I might be like, you know what, I don't really want a relationship, but I do want the female companionship, and I was express that, and and so therefore, if you're looking for a complete commitment, I'm not your guy at that present moment.
Right.
And you gotta be okay. And for me, I have to be completely transparent.
You have to be you have to start off saying what you want.
Yep.
Right. But let me interject, Kevin. Let me interject, because this is as old as time. The average guy is not going to say that. You know why? Because he wants the panties to come off. You get it? So the average guy is not going to say that. And then unfortunately, when the average guy does say that, a lot of times some women will say, I could wear him down.
Right.
He said this,
He's
but
gonna
he don't
change
really
his
mean
mind.
it. Right. And it's the same thing with women. Women do the same thing.
And I had a client like that, who thought that she could wear the guy down, and she did everything that she thought she could do to show him that
she the one.
that she was the
I'm
one.
the one.
And when he never
To who?
responded, or reacted the way that she wanted him to react, she got upset. And I said, "But why are you upset when he already set
He
the
told
tone
you
you
who he was.
who he was, and you thought that you could change that person?" And to talk about what you said, no, what you said is true that a lot of guys will not say it, but for me, I have to say it. And I,
Yeah.
for me, I believe the law of attraction. You're going to attract the people who are to you. That's where you at this present moment. So then, therefore, if I'm at this certain space in my life, where I just want to date, but I'm not looking for a commitment, I'm going to attract somebody to me, like me, that's going to go along with that.
Do you
You,
really believe that?
I have, I have.
Look, I'm just gonna play devil advocate for a minute because sometimes I get the law of attraction, but sometimes your attractions are your distractions, and you
Exactly.
bring in stuff is coming to you for you to decide what are you going to do about it.
Right.
Are you going to, because just everybody cross your path, that's not necessarily who we're supposed to be dating
Right.
just
Right.
because they cross your path.
That's
That might have been just somebody that you were supposed to go out and have coffee with, or somebody that you were supposed to learn something with or teach something.
Now-
Not necessarily who you were supposed to try to finagle a relationship with.
And I'll give a situation for me. I met someone and we were cool and we dated, but it was not nothing real serious because we both were at that time emotionally unavailable. So that was like the initial connection for both of us. During that time, it was just what it was, and it worked for both of us. But then it got to a point where I started to continue to grow as a person. And then I start to see, okay, I want more to the situation, but I know this person is not going to be it.
Right.
And so then therefore I was able to like just end that. But then in my journey, I realized it was some things that dealing with her made me see some things that I needed to change within myself. So it wasn't the fact that she was supposed to be there for me forever, but like you said, it was a tool that she was supposed to do to help me make some changes within myself.
Right. Right.
And I think that's part of the things too. That I think a lot of times people come in our life and we think it's for
For a
that
lifetime.
lifetime, and it's for and I feel like every person that cross your path is there to teach you a lesson,
Absolutely. I believe that.
and you gotta figure out what the lesson is for that person. So that person may not be there for forever, and like even for me, as I've been preparing myself to elevate myself in relationships, he has given me relationships to prepare me to really see if I have evolved, emotionally, and to see, because if I'm honest, I was very selfish in giving and expressing love because my love language is acts of service and quality time.
Okay.
So this is what I give you. But if Wanda is more, affirmations and sense of touch, that's not my strength. I keep on giving you
What your love language
what
is.
it is. You may not receive it
Right.
as that.
Right.
And so then my mindset back then was, okay, this is what I'm doing. And if she, you take it or leave
Take
it.
it or leave it.
Take it or leave it. And so that was wrong on my part. So then, so in the growth process, okay, I said, okay, well, Wanda needs this, so this is what I have to start doing in order for her to truly receive the love that I'm trying to give her. And so I think that's the phase I'm in now, of just being able to I get out my comfort zone of what I know is how I express love, and be able to be loving enough to give the love to the people the way they need to receive it.
Ooh, sound like you have to be submissive,
Yeah,
and that's something that we should talk about because that's what it takes to have a sustainable relationship. Both parties have to be willing to be submissive.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's a play on that. There's a time and place for you to be submissive, for your person that you're with to be submissive,
Mm-hmm.
in order for it to come together and gel and work.
Right.
You know, it's not like, oh, like you talked about the love languages. The love languages identify with what y'all need, so you have to be submissive enough to give each other what the
That's what
other
the person
person needs.
needs.
And that's what I was talking about with the holidays.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Right.
not you
A
you
holiday
could miss
person.
me with all them
Me
holidays, but
too.
if I'm with a traditional person
Yeah.
and that's their makeup, it's not
Mm-hmm.
gonna break me to go out
Mm-hmm.
and celebrate,
Mm-hmm.
Valentine's Day or Easter
Right,
or
right, right.
whatever they say. These are the things that make
Mm-hmm.
them feel
Yeah.
whole.
Right.
And if you really care about a person, then you should want to contribute
Right.
to their feel good. It's not that you're shifting and you're becoming this person, because I'm still going to be me, but because
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy the person that I'm with, and this
Mm-hmm.
is the relationship is all about a give and take situation,
Right.
then I should be willing to do what I need to do.
I agree because
Right.
I'm like you.
You
I'm not
know,
really big on the
I
holidays like that either. But
mhm.
I've had people reach out to me and say, can you please stop by, for Christmas? Be having dinner. We
Mhm.
enjoy the food. And
Hmm.
I'm like you. You could miss me on that. I could be cool, like chilling at the crib, by myself or go to the movies like that. But that's just not what I do.
Right.
But like you said, if you really care about the people,
Right.
you will, you know, step outside of it's not always about me. It's about making that person happy as well.
Exactly.
So
And that's that being, being really loving people
mm-hmm.
really requires us to um, tap into those things that make them, satisfied and happy.
Mm-hmm.
I know, I love nature, being out in nature.
We know.
So for me, like a cool drive through the countryside would soothe me just fine. It wouldn't be that person bringing me home a a gift.
Mm-hmm.
It would be that experience of enjoying, God's best.
Mm-hmm.
But for that person, that individual, if they're a giver and if they feel like
Mhm.
that's what makes them happy
Mm-hmm.
to give me that gift, well, I'm not gonna say, why you give me this, like that's cruel.
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
going to take that. I'm going
Yeah.
to appreciate it because that's their love language. And they have to express
Right.
themselves in
Right.
how they
Mhm.
present the gifts to me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's,
Right.
I,
Right.
I love it when you said, what it was, the emotional
Mm-hmm.
unavailable. You have to
Mhm.
get in tune to
Mhm.
who you are
Yep.
and who your person is that you're dealing with
Right.
in order for that to be a fulfilled relationship. It's
Yep.
not about I need to become you and you need to become me.
Absolutely.
No, I need to understand who you are and you need to understand who I am,
Mm-hmm.
and then we do what we need to do for each other.
Right. Absolutely. And
Right.
I just but that well what we're talking about requires a lot of work. A lot of work,
Absolutely.
a lot of work, a lot of self-reflection. And a
Oof.
lot of times you
Oof.
can't do that if you always jumping from a person to another person because then the
Mhm.
time you will use to do self-reflection on yourself, now you give that time to that person because you want to
Hmm.
please that person. Then how can that person truly please you if you don't really know what you need and what you want in that
Right.
situation or how you need to be loved? I think if you don't know how you need to be loved, how can that person love you?
Absolutely.
You can't if you don't know how to love yourself. How can you tell this
Right.
person how to love you? Because you,
Hmm.
you can't even love your own self.
Hmm.
And I think that's the thing we have that people have to do. But I think they so scared to do it because
Mhm.
it's
Mhm.
to do that means you got you know tackle some
Deal
some
with them demons.
those demons exactly.
You know.
Exactly.
Those not so nice parts of you.
Hmm.
But you hit it. I mean, self reflection is something that we don't like to do because that goes back to why do we do the things, self sabotaging things,
Hmm.
or you have a great relationship, and for somebody looking out say, wow, why would she mess that up, or why would he mess that up? She is just everything. But it has nothing to do with her.
Her.
It has nothing to do with him.
Hmm.
It's the fact that they haven't dealt with their inner sides and their inner being
Hmm.
to know how to love themselves.
Hmm.
And that's, I guess that's the bigger question, is how do you love yourself? And you have to always take it back to childhood trauma,
Hmm.
because you cannot move into an adult space if you haven't graduated from the adolescence.
Hmm.
And if that pain was rooted in adolescence and you just did not deal with that, and if that's still tormenting you,
Hmm.
then that's always going to be a
Right.
problem.
I told someone one time, I love you. However, I can't love you more than you should love yourself.
Wow.
Because because then you set me up for failure. Because if you looking for me to sorry to all the love that you need to make you feel happy and whole, that I can't do that, because you should already feel happy and whole, and I should be able to compliment the love that you should already feel about yourself. But like you said, it's like when I coach people, especially the men, when I coach the men and they be dealing with the traumas, the abandonment issues, the molestation, or whatever situation may be, and I asked them, I said, have you ever allowed your heart to break? Because your heart is broken. And the hardest answer I had heard one time was from a person who said, I have not, because I'm too scared to let my heart break, because I'm scared I won't be able to put it back together.
But do you think that it was already broken? I mean,
It's
it's
already,
already broke.
it's
They just
already,
haven't even connected with them
he
being broke.
broke, right, right.
Wow.
And I was, because my thing is, I wanted him to be able to release, what's going on, because he has not released anything as well.
So, how do you take somebody into a self reflective process? How do you guide them into that process
For
as a
me,
coach?
I let Lowe's go first, since we have been going at it. Lotus, can can you hear us?
Okay.
Okay,
So, you have to
so
answer.
for me, I ask probing questions to have the person, because especially for men, um, we tend to self-analyze, but we don't allow ourselves to feel. And so I'll ask them, the fact that your father was not present, how did that make you feel?
Mhm.
Tell me how that makes you feel, not you know all that. And because I said we need to get to the core of how you feel about that. And they will say, worthless. um my confidence is shot, because I feel that I was not good enough for him, um to want to be around me. And so I said, so then what do we? So but you have to know that you are enough. And I said, but then I also have to make you understand too. You know, that person can only do
What they knew.
what they knew.
So
So
I just wanted to interject right
uh,
quick because I was trying to get this video up for folks, and it kind of died out. I guess I wasn't doing it right, but we really been talking about the fact that people don't want the truth, and when you try to tell people that no, I'm not ready for a relationship, or this is my truth because of these traumas in my life,
right,
they want to scratch you off.
right.
So what came to mind was something I was trying to share with you guys. I'm gonna see if I can share it with you. Okay, I'm gonna share this with you. Can you guys see that?
You
Yeah,
can't handle the
All
truth.
right.
we can't hear it though.
Okay. All right. Okay. I'm sorry that you guys can't hear it, but really, it's The fact of the matter is, a lot of people, they can't handle the truth.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can't handle the truth, you got to really be careful about what you asking for. And when you guys were talking, this is what I was thinking about. Can you handle the truth? Do you see Jack Nicholson when you ask somebody, just tell me the truth?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
You see them saying, you know what? No, I'm not going to tell you the truth. Why? Because you can't handle the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And it's unfortunate,
It's
but
it's true because I
that's what
know
happens.
I remember one time a while ago I was dating someone. I was living in
Hmm.
Indianapolis, and I was dating this young was going. I was we just started going out, and I do my best to be as authentic as I can. And so she was like, "Oh, you such a handsome young man, and you got good head on your shoulders. Why aren't you married?" And
Mm-hmm.
I said, "Because I was not marriage material."
Mm-hmm.
And I said I was a party boy who liked
Hmm.
the party lifestyle. So then, therefore, I was not marriage material for the people who
Mm-hmm.
want that. So I was telling my truth. And so she said to me, "Why are you being so hard on yourself?" I said, "I'm not being hard on myself. You asked me a question. I'm telling you very authentically why
Mm-hmm.
I'm not married. I don't. It might not be the answer you want to hear,
Mm-hmm.
but that's my truth. And it's not that I was being no being hard on who I am. That's who I was at that time,
Right.
and that's the reason why I'm not married at that present moment. And
Hmm.
I
And
don't
we
know.
have a reaction too
Uh huh.
to something we've said. Let me
Go for it.
Okay. Andy said, yes, some people's greatest motivating force is their desire to please their partner, which could lead to self destruction or sabotage, as mentioned.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
yeah, sometimes we do sabotage the relationship because we just have, like Oprah Winfrey said, we got the disease to please, and we're not telling the truth. And so I
Mm-hmm.
applaud you, Kevin, for being able to tell her because that must have been awfully hard.
Yeah, but I've been a better. I'm at a place. I started that when in the journey that I'm gonna be very authentic as possible,
Right.
because it's better than them we just tell it like it is, and then just deal with it whether I be rejected or not,
Right.
than to try to be something that I'm not
That you're
just to
not. Yeah.
yeah to please somebody else.
I had a friend that once said to me, I'd rather lose somebody to the truth than lose them to a lie.
Yep.
Yes,
So if
yes.
you're going to
Hmm.
go, I rather I lose you to the truth as
Right.
opposed to losing you to a lie. You believe somebody, and that's how you say, like, how when you're dating, or the representative shows up
Mm-hmm.
like off the rip,
Yes,
the and then the representative is trying to wear you down until they capture you. It
yes,
speaks to what Lois
yes.
was saying. Lotus was talking about, as far as he's trying to get to the cookie, so he's not
Mhm.
going to tell you I'm just only interested in this casual relationship, because in her
Right.
mind, she's rushing, and I fought our women for that.
Mm-hmm.
Women, listen, slow down. If he's for you, he's not going anywhere. Matter of fact,
Yes,
he'll stay longer than you probably want him to stay, because you'll wake up and
yes.
realize that that's not really who you want,
Right.
and he'll
Right,
still be there.
right. Yeah, because and you know what you were saying, Wanda, is spot on because a lot of times people they put that best foot forward at first and then the real player president show
I'd rather you
up.
show up in the beginning.
Yes, but you know, I think we've been taught so much in society that it's okay to play the game. And you hear people say this all the time. Don't hate the player, hate the game. But
Mm-hmm.
why does there even have to be
Be a
any
game.
game on my emotions or
Right.
my thoughts or my feelings for you?
Touche.
Why does there have to be any game at all?
I
Why
love it.
can't we just be on the field of life and love and just, move forward instead of doing all these other moves that don't profit us nothing, but
Right.
lead us to more hurt?
So when I was talking about this today to someone, um, the women had their concern about. I want you guys' opinion on the black men now going to other races and cultures and now leaving them by themselves. And one of the ladies feel like her statement was, you know, we as black women supported our black men while they was in slavery, and now, you
They
know,
still in slavery.
and we
Yep.
and we, and we've been holding them down, and then for
Yep.
them to leave us or abandon us to go to other women, is they feel it's not fair.
Ooh.
Who?
Lotus, you
Lotus, go
want to get
first.
that first?
That's a
Cause,
tasty
cause,
little
cause that's
morsel.
too juicy.
We
That
gonna talk about that.
I
First
will
and
sit up on the
foremost,
edge
black
of
men
my
have been
chair.
dating outside of their race since the inception of time.
Right.
Okay, so this is nothing new. And I think what happens is, if you really look at the real, a lot of that is utilized to cause a divide between black men and black women. And it also caused a divide against any other culture and black men. You know why? Because other men in other cultures are also territorial. So therefore, it perpetuates the unbalance and the dislike for black men because they're coming in the culture dating their women and or their men. Okay, just gonna keep it real. So you can't really say that this is something new.
Right.
We're seeing it a lot more now, I believe, because it was such a taboo in the past, especially in slave days. And in it, I mean, white men raped black women for eons. But see, this is the thing. Black women also had relationships with white men, because how do you have 5 children by your slave master and you just hate it? It just, I mean, and I know it's a product of rape, but there were some that were not rape. It was consensual. Why? Because they loved who they loved. And that comes to my point. Should it matter if you're dating a white person or Indian person or Latino person or Jamaican person or African person or Russian person?
Ooh.
Should it really matter?
Ooh.
Because when we go back to the reality of who we are spiritual beings having a human experience. And this body that you see is only a shell. And we've been conditioned psychologically to believe that we are so very different spiritually, when fundamentally we're not. But the glorious thing is that we do have all these wonderful outer shells that bring a lot of creativity and a lot of difference to the world. So it makes us better, and we defy the odds of distinction of the race. And I'm talking about the human race.
Mm-hmm.
And so, why should it really matter? And yeah, so what? When I came back to the United States in 2016, I saw more women of color with white men more than I'd ever seen before.
Mm-hmm.
And me coming from a culturally diverse family, it kind of doesn't. I
It
don't. I
doesn't
don't
bother you.
care. It doesn't matter to me.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a deep question, and I could go a whole bunch of ways.
And we want you to.
So
Let's go them ways. I
I
went
want
the
to
first
say
way. You go
this.
ahead, and then we
I
going.
want to say that when you talk about slavery, everything matters, because slavery is the
Mm.
reason why we feel so undervalued. So that really, it does play a part on everything we do. First of all, if you talk about not so much as keeping the race pure, I don't think black people, I don't think we could ever get pure unless we went back to
Right.
to Africa, and we were able to stay there and keep our riches,
Right.
because we're number one. See, as far as I'm concerned, we're number one. So when you bring in other people in, they are tainting our purity. Okay. Let's be
I love when
clear.
we go there.
Let's be clear. And the fact that for us to build the black culture back,
Mhm.
what's wrong with me dating my black chocolate, brother, because we want to make some chocolate babies? What's wrong with that? Because when you have it, whereas certain races, colors, or whatever you want to call it,
Mhm.
people is people, they saying the Jews saying like, hey, you get that Jewish girl, that's where you're gonna have it. That's your babies. That's where you're coming from. Same thing. The Asians, da 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 da. It list goes on and on and on. We as black people, we're so accepting of everything, even when it comes to our neighborhoods. Switching it, I'm gonna switch it just for
Go for it.
Economical disadvantages that we have, is because we allow everything to come in our neighborhoods that don't serve us.
Right.
When Elijah Muhammad said, listen guys, build up your neighborhood, don't eat that stuff over there, don't do this, it was like he was like getting thrown. No, the colonizer come in and say he's crazy, he's this, he's that. Why? Because they don't want us to be strong. Mm-hmm. They want us to be disarmed. They want us, it's easier. You have more respect when you go outside of the states, probably because they know the truth. They really know who we are. Mm-hmm. But in the states, it's about being controlled by the colonizer. So yeah, I want you to go get Becky. Why? Because that makes you weak. Go get a sister and figure out how to handle her crazy butt. That makes you strong, because you're saying, you know what? She looked like my mama. I love my mama. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna stand toe to toe with her. We're gonna go through whatever we need to go. We're gonna both go to counseling. We're gonna go both figure out how our love languages work. See, all this stuff is fancy terms, but let's be clear. When you make a decision to get married, you gotta stick and stay. Yep. Regardless, and you got to hold people accountable. Now, you might get put in time out. So for every violation that you bring, there's going to be a repercussion. There's going to be a punishment involved. Absolutely. But when it comes down to how do we grow together, we first decide that we want to grow together. We decide how we want to grow together. We decide that, we're going into the room, and whoever don't be standing, that's the winner. Mm-hmm.
So I got a question
if I come out of the room and I'm standing, that means I won.
Mm-hmm. So I got a question for you. Uh-huh. Because, hello, Takako, all the way from Japan. Good to see you. So my question is this. Anybody that's out there listening, okay, we need you to go ahead and give us a number one, because what Kevin has so eloquently done is drop this wonderful ball of intellectual discussion in our lap. And we are volleyballing on both sides of the fence. So now I'm going to go this way with it, Wanda, because we can go so many different directions. Now I'm going to speak to Wanda's point about why should we stay within the confines of our own race, or why aren't we understanding how slavery changed us, and why aren't we understanding that other cultures around the globe, and as I've traveled to many countries, they treat you differently as a person of color. And sometimes when people understand your power as a whole, they do what they did in 1921. Anybody know what I'm talking about?
Tulsa.
What about Tulsa, Oklahoma? What about the Black Wall Street?
What about the Black Wall Street? Right.
Why did it occur?
Yeah.
Because of the power of the people, because when they united and came together, what did they do? They built their own fortune. Exactly. They were able to stand alone. And so because they extracted money from the United States economy, at least that's what people thought. And in fact, that's exactly what it was. You know why? Because they were spending their dollars within their own communities, as Wanda was just suggesting. Right. Because why? It gives us more self-worth.
Right.
So we're not saying you can't date who you want to date, but we're not saying it's your right to date Black people and to stay within that confines if you want. And you got to look, when we talk about a subject like this, and this is a strong, powerful subject, you got to look at it from a multifaceted perspective. Mm-hmm. And we could talk about it to the end of days. But the fact of the matter is, together we are strong and divided we fall as a people.
And to
And
piggyback
that's
what
why
y'all
we
was saying,
falling.
to piggyback what
Yeah,
y'all was
exactly.
saying, a buddy of mine, he was doing like some freelance work, and he was having a
Mm-hmm.
conversation with an Asian guy,
Mm-hmm.
and they got real cool, and they had like a real in
Mm-hmm.
depth conversation. And the Asian guy said to my buddy, "The day African Americans know their power is the day that the USA changed."
Mm-hmm.
He said
Of
because
course.
he said everything that's being done to you guys is to keep y'all down
Mm-hmm.
because they know how
Mm-hmm.
strong and powerful you are.
Right.
He
Of
said the
course.
problem is y'all don't know it yet.
Exactly.
And then
Yeah,
once
and let
y'all
me say this, Kevin. I'm sorry. Go ahead,
go
please.
for it, go ahead.
And let me say this. I remember when I was in Japan. I was in Sasebo, Japan, and as you know, when America go to countries and begin to the army or the military branches, they take up ownership, if you will, in those countries. America don't leave; they there to stay. But you see, most countries want to push us out. Why? Because they see what has been done to the black people
Mm-hmm.
here in America, and some of the and the racism is a festering wound.
Yes, it
But what
is.
also is evident is that your money is power. Case in point, if you go overseas, many military people drink. A lot don't, but many do. And in
Mm-hmm.
some areas like Sasebo and different parts of Yokosuka, Japan, there are places that are saturated with bars and places on the street where you can buy different types of liquor. And what happens is the dollars from the soldiers and the sailors and all the military people that go into these areas out in the communities of
Mm-hmm.
Asia or wherever they are, they support
The
the Asians'
community.
lifestyle
The
of
community.
affluence.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
So what happened was when I was in Sasebo, a young lady had come over to Asia and she was drinking and she had a head on collision with somebody. Well, guess what they did? They said that nobody over there could drink, even if you were an admiral. If they went into your house and you were caught with some type of liquor, you were in trouble. So, what happened was the bars and the nightclubs started hurting. It
Mm-hmm.
hurt their pockets. So they were pleading with the American government to lift the ban so that people can come out and drink. And some businesses even closed. And you can look up the statistical data on that. Look it
Mm-hmm.
up because it's there.
Mm-hmm.
So if just the population of people that drink
Mm-hmm.
can make that devastating of a change, what could people of color do with their dollars?
I'm raising my church finger
Go
up
for it.
I know, I saw
because
that.
you saw my church finger, right? One thing, but like I was saying before, I alluded to how they come into so-called our areas
Mm-hmm.
because let's face it, we always have a city in on every city we have a street name MLK.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yep.
always the worst part of town.
Right.
Okay, why? Because that's the side of town where the income level is lower
Lower.
than any other area, right?
Mm-hmm.
So here they are. We, the people that live there, we allow or we don't stop trash businesses from coming in.
Mhm.
You cannot go into the predominant Jewish community. They're not going to let Popeye's chicken come in there. They're not
Nope.
going to allow Church's chicken to come in
No.
there. But we will take on everything. We're going to take on the dollar stores, the Church's chicken, the Popeye's chicken, the McDonald's, the all the low class
Yep.
diet plans,
Yep.
and then we suffer from what?
High blood,
Hypertension, blood pressure, diabetes,
congestive heart
everything,
failure.
congestive heart failure, and then we sit back and say something really idiotic of is hereditary.
Right.
Yeah, poor behavior is
It's
hereditary.
It's
Of
not.
course.
It's not the gene that's the hereditary.
It's the
mind.
habit.
It's
It's
a
the
habit.
habit
It's
that's
it's
headed
what
hereditary.
it is. What it is is the cognitive conditioning, because what we think about, we bring about. So if we think of lack, and we have a lack outlook on life, and all we think is that we deserve the Popeyes and all these things that cause us high cholesterol. And we're not picking on Popeyes, but we're just saying the restaurants and things that are not really conducive for optimal health into our communities, we allow them in because we often operate from a premise of lack. So because of that, it's a cognitive thing. Our behavior follows suit. And it also follows suit when we talk about black homicides, black on black crimes. So again, we must begin to think better about ourselves. You can look at the statistical data from 2017 and 2015 and 2018 and 2019, and black homicides, black on black crimes are at an all-time high. And not only has that quadrupled, police killings of black men has soared, but to the point now you have police officers killing women in the street, knocking black women down, punching them in the face. Go on YouTube. I'm not making this up. I'm looking right here, right now, and I can tell you, go and look up the 7 statistics you need to know about black on black crime. And they'll tell you that the data shows that 93% of black homicide victims are killed by other blacks. Exactly. Now, again, like I said before, we have to watch the statistics.
But the court gets both. The court gets 2 for 1.
Right.
You kill my brother. Now my brother's gone, and then they're gonna lock you up. You know, exactly. So they get 2 for 1, and then that also breaks down of the perception of how we look at our beautiful black brothers. See, first of all, and this is, I'm speaking to my women out here, because a woman has the ability to change the whole structure of the dynamics of the relationship. And this goes from everywhere, from how you raise your children. If you don't feel like your kids are getting what they need in public schools, why don't you homeschool them? Why don't you shift your monies and stay home and let that man be that provider? You don't have to have so much excessive stuff, and the excessive things that we're getting aren't worth anything. Right. I would much rather stay home, figure out a way how to give me a little piece of land in the backyard and plant me some vegetables. Yep. You know, this is how we used to do it, right? And then I'm planting the squash, you planting the greens, she's planting the beans. Now we got greens, beans, and squash, and here's some of my squash. Let me get some of these beans over here, and we're eating good, right? The woman controls the bad behavior of the household, because if you ain't cooking the nonsense, he can't eat it. And men will do as they are allowed to do when the woman steps into her full power. See, because if I love my man, then I want my man to be healthy. And if I love my man, then I want him to pay attention to what he's eating, because I know that that's going to help us. That's going to help us in the bed. You know, that's going to help. That's going to help everything.
And we're going to go there.
We gonna go there. And it's going to help our children. This too.
So Wanda, you made a very critical point, because you talked about we losing 2. One kills the other person goes to jail, and then they go and they go for an extended period of time. But one thing that you didn't mention that came out with brother Kanan Harper on my show last week. Do you know that many of the prisons feed the inmates food that says in plain English? Look up my video that I did. The food is not fit for human consumption.
Right.
So they've lost their life on the street. But now the real hell begins, because they're behind the wall, and now their health is even going to take an even greater a punch in the heart. Why? Because now they're feeding them food that's not even fit for humans to eat.
And to piggyback what you said, because you said it very well, you know, if the woman loves their man, they gonna make sure they feed them the stuff that they need to feel till they can do what he need to do out in the workforce, but also in the bedroom. That's important, because what you eat is going to help determine how
How
can
you
you perform?
perform. Come
And
on
so,
now.
so then therefore you got all these men now who have erectile dysfunction.
Dysfunction. Ooh, this the right show for me.
The erectile dysfunction,
Amen.
and a lot of it comes from their diet.
Diet.
Because at the end of the day, you get these men who now eating these poor diets, they're not exercising, and they have high blood pressure. They put you on a pill for high blood pressure. That pill is going to give you erectile dysfunction.
Yep.
Then you go, if you got high blood pressure, you might have diabetes. That pill is going to give you erectile dysfunction. Now, now, therefore, the woman that's in the place should be like, okay, we got to do something different. So
Yep.
you're in control. This, and I told this to somebody. I hope she's listening. I told them you're in control.
Yeah.
And now let me say this though. Let me say this because I'm gonna come back and say something else. The woman is in control to a degree, and you know why I say that? Because I can tell you somebody right now where his wife has been telling him, you have diabetes and you have cancer, and he will not eat right.
He will
She'll
not eat
put the
right.
food in front of him, but he will not do it. And see, that's where people have to be conscious enough about their own self-love and
Absolutely.
self-worth to take care of their own bodies. Because guess what? The onus is not on the women alone. The onus is on the man as
Absolutely.
well, because you're supposed to be one. Whether you're
Absolutely.
married or in a relationship, you're under the same roof. So you have to
Absolutely.
operate in the mindset of oneness.
Right.
So if you healthy, there's no reason why I shouldn't be healthy if we're eating the same thing. But again, what I eat don't make you fat. But it's a consciousness of your own self-worth and your own self-love. And to a point that Wanda made a few minutes ago, Wanda talked about, and I'm coming away from that a little bit. Wanda talked about homeschooling our children. Well, guess what? On an upcoming show, we're going to have a gentleman named Amumu Ojuk. He is over one of the African schools out of South Carolina. Because we've got to start having these things in our communities. Because some people are not going to be able to be homeschooled. Why? Because you got to have both of them incomes. Because things are so inflated. Some people cannot live off of one income. So what about these people who are coming up with these African schools? We got to support them.
Yeah.
Because when we support them, we support ourselves, we support our children, and we support our future and
Right.
our longevity.
Now I want because I know you were saying, we say that we can't live off of one income.
can.
We can because we gotta change our lifestyles. And I think that's something that
And that, and also as an entrepreneur, there are multiple ways to make money.
right.
And now this goes back to, what are your gifts? Do you know what to do? Now this is, like, you take care of them mentally. I ain't gonna fight you where you are. You're gonna come up to me. This is where my services are really, really key in helping you identify what your how will you be successful? What is pulling at your heart? What is the cause that you're doing this? Now, I was at an event this weekend called Making Money Out of the Box. There was a ton of different ways how to make money. Right? So it's not that you have this one income, is you have one person that's going outside of the home, and the other person is that home technician that makes sure that the meals, the family, the kids are getting what they need, like the nurturing. Because and it's just, I guess, the old-fashioned girl in me, I think that's why I don't believe I'm not getting ready to chase no man. I think that, he's supposed to be in the pursuit. This is how we know that this thing really works. But if I'm going to take the role of making sure that the children get this nurturing from from my side of the street, then the dad is going to do what he has to do on his side of the street. We come together as a family, and like Lotus said, yes, you have to be committed to your own good health and your own good thought processes. But this is where the whole even yoke comes in, where you're sitting
Yes.
back and you
Yes.
decide on who's
Mm-hmm.
going to be your mate and who's not going to
Mm-hmm.
be your mate. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not getting ready to be with no brother that can't understand my drive for entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
We're
And
not
let
going to
me
make
add
it.
this. Yeah.
He
Let me add this too. Because you smoking, Wanda. You are on fire right
I
there.
haven't
Because
smoked
what
yet.
you said is so powerful because it led me to think this. So if everybody's playing their part, right? How much stress does that relieve? Right? How much tension does that relieve? Because we know stress is one of the primary factors in heart attacks and strokes,
And
and
diet.
also in cancers. Okay, so when we play our parts and we are evenly yoked, it relieves some of the stress out of our home environment. So when we go out into the world, we're more in balance. And when we're
Exactly.
more in balance, we are more at ease. And so we stay away from a
The
body that's in
dis-ease.
disease.
Thank you.
So Wanda, you smoking,
But I'm not yet.
so I have a question.
baby? Oh Lord.
Do you think it's harder for a man or a woman who comes from a two family household to date someone who comes from a single parent household?
I don't think it matters.
No,
And the reason why
it's about the person.
that right, the reason why I say it doesn't matter because a two family household can be more toxic than a single
Yep,
family household. It's
yep.
a
I
matter
concur.
of the person and what are their standards. I think what matters is the desire of both people coming together and what do they want to create. I think that that's
Yes,
the only thing that
yes,
matters. So if you can bring in
yes.
honesty into a
Hmm.
situation and I can say, listen, this is what I need. These are the things that I'm looking for. This is what I'm trying to build. This is who I am.
Yes.
Can you take me in all my flaws? Right now, today.
Right.
Don't try to think that I'm getting ready to change in 5 years because the likelihood of that is probably not going to happen.
Right.
Okay,
Yep.
so if you can accept me for where I am, and if I can accept you from where we are, then we have a shot. Doesn't have
Yeah.
anything to do with now. I do know that the things that we learn as children, of course, they play a part, but it all comes down to adult desire to have a great relationship.
Right.
That's
Hmm.
adulting.
Yes, I concur. And also, from a personal perspective, I dated somebody who grew up in a two-parent home, and
Probably
and
was effed
and
up.
and they were pretty well to do, but like you said, they was effed up because they didn't know about emotional or physical showing affection. That's what it was, showing affection. They were like,
Mm-hmm.
they don't show affection in public, or it was all behind closed doors. Like, they wouldn't hold your hand or say I love you or kiss you because they never saw their parents do it.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
It was a foreign thing in their home. And so they were more prone to be distant with their family because they really didn't have them love ties like that, where
Mm-hmm.
they showed their love openly and felt like it was okay. So when you're in a single parent home, a lot of times what I've learned, especially when boys are raising or women are raising children
That's
alone,
another.
there's a lot of affection.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of times the mother feels like I'm already at a disadvantage. I got to be mom and dad, and I don't want my children to not think that I don't love them because I got to work 10-hour shifts.
Right.
So instead of her buying them a lot of things all the time, because sometimes she's not able to, and sometimes she's got a power job and she can, but she gives them a lot of love and affection and affirming comments to affirm better behaviors. And the same thing with men, because we can't leave the
Mm-hmm.
brothers out, because there's a lot of men raising their children by
By
themselves,
themselves.
and they are doing a phenomenal job.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm seeing this more among other nationalities too. You see a lot of Caucasian, lot of Latino men. They're raising their children now
Mm-hmm.
on their own. So we
Mm-hmm.
got to look at both
Yeah,
spectrums.
both
So
spectrums
Now
has to
you
be
said
looked at.
something that was very interesting. You said that the person that that's going to deal with you got to be able to deal with the essence of who you are as an entrepreneur. What do you mean by that?
Because first of all, I've never been traditional in my lifestyle in terms of like I'm not the person that's getting ready to go to bed at 8 o'clock. We're not getting ready to, sleep all
She sure
night and
ain't.
day. What time were we up? Like 4 o'clock in the morning,
Right.
Four
right?
o'clock in the morning. Yes, we
So,
were.
or I'm gonna get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and then two, I'm gonna move differently. I'm gonna have a very unorthodox schedule. It may take me out of town. I'm going to have as much my goal, and I'm old, so you see that matters too. When you're dating a young cat or a young girl, her
Mm-hmm.
perception is going to be different.
Mm-hmm.
My
Yep.
threshold for BS is very,
Very
very
thin.
Minute.
thin.
Very thin.
Okay, so
Hmm.
I'm going to believe what I see when I see it.
Right.
I trust my instinct more. I trust my gifts. I talk to the ancestors, I talk to the spirits, I consult with everyone, and I see and I feel what I feel. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
not getting ready to, I'm a very hard person for you to pull the wool over my eyes because I see you coming. I
Mm-hmm.
sense stuff and I see stuff, and it's a great thing because we all have that ability. We sometimes it just gets crystallized by us not paying attention and us not clearing our own energy out. So
Right.
I'm an energy girl. I consult with the moon, the stars, the birds, the trees, the concrete jungle. Those are my friends. So for somebody to come along and say, well, she's too mystical or she's too, in la la land, that's probably not the person that's going to take me the long way.
Right.
So you don't have to do the things that I do, but you got to let me be who I am.
Right.
And and when you're talking about I'm okay with a relationship not being a forever relationship because I understand I have a weird way, weird
No.
and good. I call it my weird good way in believing that I'm not only a spirit, but I'm a planet. So I'm moving and I'm shifting and I'm traveling. And in one time I might bump against this thing right here and I need to hang out over there for a little bit.
Right.
That might be for a lifetime hangout. Or it may just be for a transitional period to get to somewhere else. So I'm going to be as fluid as I want to be because this is who I am. I didn't always know who I was because it takes you to grow into your maturity.
Right.
So I'm not talking for my 21-year-old self. And that's why you cannot play around. I'm saying wake up, everybody. We got to wake up to who we are, and we have to really take self-inventory to understand who we are.
Right, yeah.
We got to look at ourselves in the mirror straight eye to eye and say, you know what? I like her, and I like this about her, and I like that about her, and I'm not so good. I like that. So I'm going to work on that if I choose to. And if I don't choose to, I'm identify that that's what it is. Because I told somebody this one day, it's easier. People like to get a survey where you list all of the good things that they like about you. I want the surveys that you tell me the things that you don't like.
Right.
So then I can evaluate them from your perspective. It doesn't mean that anything's going to happen or change, but at least I don't need you to validate who I am.
Right.
And that's a hard pill for a lot of people to swallow because just look at social media. What are they doing? They're looking for self-validation. They're looking for other people to validate their whole purpose in their existence. Oh, let me post this. I got a new dress on. I got it's all that. It's all of this. Let me filter this and filter that and filter this and filter this and filter this and filter this. And they filter themselves on out of here. And now you realize that, who am I? I don't know. Well, see, I know who I am. So for me to come to anybody, it's like, here I am, I'm showing up. And like, as an entrepreneur, I have a different, I get excited. I don't like boring dulls me. I could be on the phone for hours with a person as long as I'm stimulated mentally. So you got to stimulate me mentally in order to get me to the bedroom. Because if it ain't popping mentally, I'm not going in that other room.
Absolutely.
That's not happening.
Absolutely.
You know, so you got to bring all of that.
And it's crazy you said that, because I said it to a young lady one time. I said, in order for me to get you there, you got to get me here.
Yeah.
And I said, we have to be intimate up here because I'm an intellectual type of dude. And so I need that intellectual stimulation. If you can't give it to me, then I can't give you that.
Right.
And she could not understand that. And I'm like, it's more to me than just giving you the physical part, because I need to be stimulated mentally. If you can't do that, then we got to understand that's not your strength. That's what I need.
That's what you need. And that's the biggest thing for figuring out what you need. It's not about if we can gel together. Hell, I can hang out with anybody for a day.
Yeah.
We don't have to get deep in a day. But if we're going to take this to a whole nother level, then we gotta figure out how to get there together. But just
Exactly.
if we're just hanging out for like a day, like you say, hey, let's go to the party. Come on. I could be all of that. I could be the party girl. I could be this girl and the that girl and the that. But then when the lights come on and we slow rolling, if you ain't up here, then I'm over there talking to somebody else.
Right.
And that's
Yeah. And I tell people all the time, I used to say the same thing Kevin says, make love to me intellectually, because when you make love to me intellectually, at some juncture, the very gift of this body that I have, it's still a choice. And if I choose to share it with you, it's going to be from a place of a heart filled with love, but it's going to be caused by the intellectual stimulation that you were able to give me. Because guess what? Once the 15 minutes of splendor is over, and I say 15 minutes, I mean, you could go for 2 hours, but once the 15 minutes of splendor is over, what are you going to talk about?
What do you
have in common?
Yeah.
What's important to you? Matter of fact, what is your name?
Yeah.
For some people.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what we were saying before, because this society is spotlight on the whole pretentious side of, I know you. It's like, I know you really don't know me. You're seeing what I allow you to see. Yep. And some people show too much, and then they be thinking, then they feel so, like whatever. I'm not going there. But if you see me for who I am, it wasn't because of anything I posted. Mm-hmm. It was because you came into the space, mm-hmm. and you came around, and that developed. Mm-hmm. Because we protect ourselves first, right?
Absolutely.
So mm-hmm. you're not getting ready to dive off into no relationship day one, A1. That's not getting ready to happen. Now you would put up all this little pretty picture, be like, yes, I like this, and I like long walks, and I like fluffy poodle pups, and da 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 da, and da 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 da. But that's just surface stuff. Mm-hmm. See, the whole thing is, like, come on in, and that takes time. And that's another thing that I think is suffering mm-hmm. from relationships, is that they don't want to take the time. They want to take ownership before they take the time. I don't need to own any person. Mm-hmm. Let you be your person.
Yeah, and it's so funny because, like you said, whether it's something you post or if you just see you out and about, they think they know you, and you don't, like you said, you only know what I let you see of me. So, like, I can walk around and people say, "Oh, you know what? He is so laid back.
So nice.
He's so nice. I bet he don't do
He's
nothing."
Such a nice guy.
You know what I'm saying? But they're the people who are in my life. Mm-hmm. Just laugh. I'm like, okay, they didn't really think that you like this.
He'll go in there with the AK-47 and blast up the place.
Right.
Set it off.
Because they just don't see that. I said, but I just think you don't. Everybody's not allowed to see all the essence of you.
Hey, Tiasha.
They have to be able to earn that.
Right,
And
right, right.
and I think,
So I got a question
uh huh,
because we have talked about people really trying to get to notice themselves, trying to get to know their mate. And a lot of times people are afraid to ask those hard questions of the person, what do you really want? Because sometimes they feel like that they are not enough. And I know, Wanda, you wrote a book and it says, I am enough. So I know that the book kind of takes it's an empowerment journey through life's up and downs. Okay. And it talks about things from the perspective of how people can see things through the eyes of a Black woman. It sees her courage and her strength and see it as crystal clear as when you read about how being homeless and suicidal thoughts and heartbreaks and health challenges and so much more is in this book. It helps you, the reader, to understand that you are enough. So Wanda, because I know time is narrowing down, can you tell us some more about the book? What caused you to write it first and foremost?
Right. Well, what caused me to write it was at a very, very broken point in my life. You know, homeless at an age where I never thought I would be like on my mother's couch. House foreclosed, car title pawn, hiding my vehicle, and it's one of those things with the struggle was had exceeded my head. And so I went through it was a whole transition. I cut my hair. At one time I had these locks, so I remember sitting there like picking these locks out. And when you have locks, it's a very difficult thing to pick locks out of your hair. So I was picking these locks, and then I started the process of taking some things that I had written already and saying, because the book came after. First, I went into the studio and did a recorded spoken word CD, and I was dead set on I had to do 12 tracks. So I did that. That came out beautifully. Then when I had went back to work, and I would never stop working, but things was just, it was more month than the money would allow me to take care of. And I was at a place of, say, that couch, and I'm that's my, that's it. I know my own personal space was like gone, and I started shifting to where I said, well, I have to get this book out of me, because this book I have been writing for so long, and it's comprised mostly of short stories and poetry, but we write through our emotions. So I was able to put that together, and my whole thing was stop halfway doing shit. A lot of times when we live in life, we halfway living it. So it was that thing about stop procrastinating on all of these areas, and let's dive into life. Let's pull off all of these trying to live up to other people's expectations. And for me, it was just to get this book out, and it took me from getting in the studio, recording that, then getting the book out, and I came out like a new person. And I went back into corporate for a little bit, and then when I was like making my moves, and I said, well, they did a merge, and I finally got my pink slip. I was like, that's it, I'm out. I'm not going back. I'm done. Because then I felt like, I guess I finally had enough confidence to believe that I could pull off the whole shebang, and for me, it was that big step towards my freedom. And then my mission became in just inspiring other people, because I had always been a motivator and an inspirator. But sometimes, like, I believe, and this is just me, that we teach what we most need to learn.
Absolutely.
So I was teaching, but also learning myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned how to gain the strength of what everything I had inside to keep going. And so there birthed that book. And even when I was going through the process, I'm big on words. So inside of the book, it has 107 affirmations to live by. And the person that was consulting with me on the book said, that should be in a separate book. And I said, nope, I don't want it like that. I want it like this, because I want to take a person through the journey of life and then give them the workable tools in getting everything back on track and keeping it together. So that's where that book came from. And you can buy that at my website,
Quick point.
IamEnough365.com.
And what about that book right there?
And
So,
wake up
mhm,
winning, no matter what, was the tragedy of my mom, my grandparents both
mhm,
leaving in 2017. And this
mhm,
book took me to a whole nother level, because
mhm.
what we were talking about today,
Yes.
Lotus, is when you go through something and you figure out how strong you are. So with this
Yes.
book, I was able to see my strength, because I made a decision: curl up on the
Mhm,
couch or push for a project that will get me out of that
mhm.
grieving, put my grief in a place of productivity, and
Right, right.
not be defeated in my grief. So wake up winning no matter what, because losing is not an option. Gathering people, and we all told our story from a point of strength and what we had gone through, and then it offers tips. So you got a rich book with other people's situations that they've gone through. So within this book, I didn't do a lot of writing. I was more or less like the organizer, but that's what I needed to not cripple me. And I literally, in the year 2018, I homeschooled my grandson. I wrote this book. I started launching another project. And that's just my makeup. I cannot slow down with life,
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't get the dirt bath call.
Right.
I didn't get called home to get my wings. So if I'm still here, then I got to push towards my win. And that's what my whole mission is about. It's about waking up winning, and believing that we are enough, because we truly are.
Um.
And Wanda, I got a quick question. The I Am Enough book, I think it's also on Amazon, and I'm gonna try to share that with folks so that you guys could see it. I hope you guys could see it. I'm sharing my screen because it's important that you guys know where to get this book from, and also it's very affordable. It's only 14.95
Yeah, on
in
Amazon it's
paperback.
14. If you get it from me, it's 20.
Right. Hey.
Ah,
So
isn't that
so make
something?
sure make sure you get it. It's
So
better to get it from her if you can.
so
But
I want
I'm
to
just
thank
telling you.
I want to thank
Mhm.
Wanda. It's always a pleasure. You set this place on fire. You set us on fire. I think we had an amazing conversation. We probably need you to come back on again. I would just say not this gonna be Lois's thing, but she's gonna do the women's roundtable. Of course, she can't do the women's roundtable without you.
I think we've already.
We already talked about it.
She
Okay,
told me
well,
about.
Now, see, yeah, Wanda's already down. She's already in the know.
I'm just gonna be the only
Wanda's gonna
male
be on it.
figure.
So
I just
those
be
of you that's out there, make sure you come back for the women's roundtable. Wanda's gonna be on there. Hi to Larry Tuckakoa out of Japan, Zanaya Betty out of New Jersey, North Carolina's in the house, South Carolina's in the house, and I'm looking on my feed. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Do not sleep on this book, Wake Up Winning. It's a powerhouse, and I am enough. If you don't feel like you're enough, go to Amazon or contact Wanda, love you. Contact Wanda and get the I Am Enough.
And I just want to say this. Can I just say
Mhm.
this one last thing? For those of you that's looking for a community of support, we have lots of groups on Facebook. Wake Up Winning for Entrepreneurs is one of them, where we help support the entrepreneur with resources and services. And also we do another group called the Winning Evening News, where I also interview different people that's in business and doing great works in the community. You can follow me on all social media under Wanda D Hollis. And on Facebook, it's Wanda D. Hollis. And then so I would love to connect with you.
Okay. Before we go, next week is part 2 of the Men's Roundtable discussion. It's going to be another powerhouse conversation, so look forward to it. Lois will be in the building, so she will not be
In the
on Zoom.
house.
She will be in the ATL for part 2 of this. Um, to you, I am greatly appreciative to you.
Thank you.
You know, your energy is infectious. And I just, I love to have you on all the time because you bring out the best in both of us in our
Yes.
conversations. And so, I'm just truly grateful to you.
Well, I appreciate being here to the Wellness Architect
I
Show.
thank you.
It's great.
Thank you guys for tuning in to the Wellness Architect Show. Be great, be authentic, be yourself, and we are out. Peace.